Are we online? We're all set? Okay, let's move forward. Good evening and welcome to the April 19th Parcel Tax Roll Review Panel. Easy to say. Just a reminder that under the provisions of the Community Charter, before a parcel tax is imposed for the first time or there are changes to an existing parcel tax roll, the roll must be authenticated by the Parcel Tax Review Panel. For the information of the panel and the public viewing online, the Community Charter limits the grounds under which a person may register a complaint regarding the parcel tax roll. And these are, there is an error or omission respecting a name or address on the parcel tax roll. There's an error or omission respecting the inclusion of a parcel. There's an error or omission respecting the taxable area or the taxable frontage of a parcel, and an exemption has been improperly allowed or disallowed. I also remind the panel that all complaints must be in writing and must be received by 4 p.m. on Friday, April the 16th, 2021. The chair requests that any written notices of complaint against the revised sewer parcel tax assessment roll be submitted to the panel. I need a motion for the panel to review and correct the revised sewer parcel tax assessment roll. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Where are we supposed to get any, if there's any, will you let us know? Okay, that's what I thought would happen, but I just want to make sure. All right, I need a motion for the panel to certify the revised sewer parcel tax assessment roll. The motion is that the revised, you've got a copy of the motion? Has everybody got a copy of the motion? All right, I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Chandler, second by Councillor Greer. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Chair requests that any written notice of complaint against the revised water parcel tax assessment roll be submitted to the panel. I need a motion for the panel to review and correct the revised water parcel tax assessment roll. I need a mover and a seconder for the motion that the panel review and correct the revised. Councillor O'Brien, second by Councillor Patterson. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. I need a motion for the panel to certify the revised water parcel tax assessment roll. I need a mover and a seconder for the motion. Councillor Greer, second by Councillor Chandler. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Chair requests that any written notices of complaint against the regional parks parcel tax roll be submitted to the panel. I need a motion for the panel to review and correct the revised regional parks parcel tax assessment roll. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Chandler, seconded by Councillor Greer. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I need a motion for the panel to certify the revised regional parks parcel tax assessment roll. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're getting there. Most important one, I need a mover and a seconder for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Chandler, second by Councillor Greer. All those in favor? Completed until next year. Now we have 11 minutes. Good afternoon and welcome to the April 19th regular meeting of council. The city of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. A consent agenda for 2 points. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Patterson, second by Councillor Chandler. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Delegations. We have 2 delegations. The first is David Todtman and Valerie Dare representing the Friends of Parksville Community Centre. We can bring them on board. There we go. All right. You have exactly 10 minutes.
Okay, we shall begin now.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Your worship and councilors, thank you so much for accepting our delegation from Friends of Parksville Community Centre. I'm David Todtman, and my co-presenter, as you mentioned, is Valerie Dare. Thank you for your willingness to listen to us, and most importantly, thank you for your willingness to listen to the voices of citizens and hear their thoughts regarding their community center. Their statements deliver a clear message asking that you honor the commitments that council made to support the Parksville Community Center and our local community volunteer board. They also ask that you honor your commitments to our shared principles of democracy, including public consultation. The voices you will hear tonight make it clear that the citizens of Parksville want you to keep the whole community in the Parksville Community Center. Valerie? Is Valerie on board this evening? There she is. You'll have to unmute, Valerie. It's your turn now.
Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Marilyn.
Okay, Valerie, we're already going.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so it's your turn to take the next, it's your first turn.
So this is slide 1 still?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Great. So we began the Save the Parksville Community Center petition in response to many calls for action in support of keeping the PCC as the community gathering place. With COVID protocols, we had to proceed with virtual actions, and the petition was the best way to gather the concerns of the community so we could share them with you. We'd hoped to get a few hundred signatures, but the number of responses, today it's up to 2,572, has surprised and gratified us. So thanks to everyone who signed that. Through letters, emails, and this petition, people are continuing to call on you to keep the Parksville Community Center available to all residents.
Slide 2, please. This is the, okay, so this is the petition that you're seeing right now. And we trust that you mayor and councilors are familiar with it. And instead of taking up time reading it again, we want to share the reasons why people gave for signing and opposing the repurposing of the PCC. So what you're about to hear are just a small sample of message after message after message from you to you from the people. Slide 3, please. We grouped the messages into 3 themes. Theme 1, and these are quotes from the signers. This one, it's part of my story, which outlines the theme about the PCC's importance to residents. The second theme outlined by this quote, to lose our community center is to lose the heart of the city, which outlines the theme about community pride and ownership of the PCC. And the third theme of the comments is characterized by this quote, just despicable, truly, which summarizes the passion about the decision to repurpose the PCC and hand over operations without public consultation. Slide 4.
The PCC's importance to residents is the first theme. And here are 5 selected comments where people gave their reasons for signing. Many comments speak to how the community center has impacted their lives, their family members' lives, and the lives of friends and neighbors.
So this person wrote, this venue provides an important social outlet for seniors who have few nearby opportunities.
A community center is a place to connect with friends, neighbors, and to make new friends. A community center is vital to the health of the community.
Another person wrote, I was and will again be a frequent flyer of the PCC. I was attending exercises, seniors connecting, craft sales, workshops, movies, and many more community activities.
I'm signing, this person said, because I've used this community center in Parksville for years as a community building. I go to craft fairs, dances, etc. there. Giving it away is crazy.
And the last comment that we selected to represent this category is, this community center provides a lot of fun events for different businesses. And also, you host things for kids, which I'm a happy mother of 2. Slide 5, please. Next slide. Okay, I think I messed up with the slide thing, but the slide 5 is community pride and ownership. Thank you. These comments show how attached the public is to the community asset that they planned, paid for, and operated. It's part of their identity.
So as one person put it, I contributed to fundraising events to bring this community center into fruition. I have attended multiple community functions here.
And this person wrote, Parksville needs a community center, and all the money and volunteer hours that were spent when the center was built should not be ignored. Very disrespectful.
It only makes sense in a city of this size to have what is already available and has been an asset to the community through contributions from so many dedicated members and businesses.
Another person wrote this, built and paid for by the community, it should be for the community as a whole, not rented and used for a subset.
And lastly, I miss the classes for seniors and miss the people I have met there. I feel the mayor and council had no right to take the center away from the people.
Next slide, please.
The decision to repurpose the PCC is theme 3. As upset as people are by losing their gathering place, a special type and intensity of reaction is directed against the absence of public consultation.
This person wrote, the heart of Parksville has been taken away without discourse or consideration for post-COVID consequences. This is not why I pay taxes.
Consultation with the community instead of closed-door decisions is a much better way of dealing with this. Community money went into this community center, and the community should be included in what happens to it.
And another person wrote this, the PCC is a valuable community asset and part of the fabric which holds us together. It is outrageous that the city council thinks they have the right to proceed down this path without even pretending to engage residents.
And another, in all the years we have lived in this community, this has been the heart of the community. Everything of value is held here. This was why a purpose-built building for the community as a gathering place. Under what authority does a council have permission to change the direction of usage?
And this person wrote, my family has attended so many events and workshops at the community center since it was built. I cannot fathom the underlying intent of Parksville Town Council. This has been a bizarre decision and it causes one to suspect the motives of council. Slide 7, please. This is Volunteer Week. So in closing, we'd like to recognize Volunteer Week by sharing with you a recent social media post by one of our community volunteer organizations, the Lionesses Club. They wrote, One of the real benefits of a community center was the fact that nonprofit organizations could use it to fundraise so they could continue to support their community. No one has mentioned the loss of donations from service clubs that are now gone forever. The Parksville Lionesses donated thousands of dollars every year to our community, and a good portion of that was from our Christmas craft fair held at the community center.
There are many other charitable fundraising events that also contributed to the common good. Among participating charities were the Aerosmith Legion, Child Haven, Lions Club, Rotary Club, Mayworks and the Potters Guild, SPCA, SOS, CatSpan, and the PCC Society itself. Funds raised at their events will be greatly missed in our community.
Last slide, please. So we want to thank you. We want to thank you on behalf of the people of our city. They took the time to consider the issue, and the people spoke clearly, they spoke passionately, and they spoke resolutely. They tried to engage you through this petition to tell you that they want to keep their community gathering place open to everyone. Their voices clearly call for reconsideration and reversal of your one-sided decisions on this issue. We sincerely trust you will listen to their opinions with the respect the people deserve. Each of you can personally honor your commitments by keeping the community center available for all residents of Parksville in its present location, where it is accessible by bus in the heart of the city, adjacent to our small business downtown core. And thank you very much for accepting our delegation this evening. And finally, we trust that you will make the right decision in the best interest of all the residents of Parksville.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are
You're
there any questions from council? Councillor Fraz.
Thank you. I have a question through you to our CAO. This is about a petition being submitted here. I don't have a petition in front of me. I'm wondering if we have received a petition for us to review.
If I may, Your Worship, staff have not received anything, no.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know what we're supposed to do here about a petition, if this is to be submitting a petition, but there isn't one for us to receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome, and thank you again.
And for our second delegation this evening is from representatives of MacDonald Gray Consultants for BC and BC Housing. We can bring them in. Oh, I did. Yeah, no, you can. Okay, are we all set here? Consultants for BC and BC Housing.
Thank you, your mayor and council. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
I just wanted to first thank you all for your time and allowing us to speak as a delegation today. From our team, I have Bill Van Steen, the property owners representative with us, Raymond Kwong and Ryan Chiew from BC Housing as well. I will be very brief and turn this presentation over to Ryan and Raymond, but I just wanted to talk quite quickly that you have just seen this project recently through the development permit process. We do have a design for a 5-unit building, which we had been looking at with BC Housing throughout the process. There were some things that didn't line up with the definitions in the current city bylaws. So this is our quick move to go from a rental situation to an ownership situation within the affordable housing spectrum. And with that, I will turn it over to Ryan and Raymond. Thank you.
Hi, sorry for the delay there. I was just checking to see if Raymond had joined the meeting yet. I don't see him on the participant list, but I can get started with the presentation for affordable home ownership. So what we have today is a presentation on the BC Housing Affordable Home Ownership Program through the Housing Hub. And what we're trying to do here is to display the overall framework of what this program is, how it started, and what it means to the city of Parksville. So in 2018, the Housing Hub was created through the Building BC program and the 30-point housing plan. And that's where the Housing Hub really comes into play with two programs. And that's the Affordable Home Ownership and the Provincial Rental Supply Program, which are on the right-hand side of this housing spectrum. The overall Building BC program kind of incorporates all housing from all the way to the left, from homeless initiatives all the way to the right, where we deal with home ownership programs. So the 30-point plan, I'll just sort of skip over it, but it's essentially a definition of how we can spend money into different programs and different aspects of housing in the spectrum. And so we deal with all sorts of different programs and different initiatives with this money. It's not so important to go through that aspect in this point, so I'll just skip through the next slide. So the BC Housing and the Housing Hub, what we do is we focus on two programs, the Affordable Rental Housing and Affordable Home Ownership Program. And both of these are targeted for more independent, basically almost market type housing. And the methodology is that we try to leverage BC Housing's low cost financing with our low interest rates that we can borrow directly from the province, extend that to developers to be able to create projects of their own. And we leverage the savings that we incorporate through that down to the savings to potential renters or purchasers. So the link here just connects you to the BC Housing website, where it shows you our frameworks, documents that you can read up on additional information, and it's just more supply. So in affordable home ownership, what we're trying to explain today is that it's a program where we try to take market units and market products and leverage our savings to be able to offer them to people at lower rates. So it's the exact same product as a market unit, but it's attainable at a lower price. And so in this example, if we take a unit that costs $500,000, it's still worth $500,000 to the purchaser. But because of the equity savings that we can put into it, the purchaser would only have to come up with $400,000 in a mortgage, where 20% would sit on a second mortgage that is basically in the background. It's no interest, no payment for 25 years. And what that does is it's equity for the purchaser to be able to use on this home ownership. And it counts exactly the same as any other form of equity as cash. So if the person comes up with 5% down payment, this 20% stacks on top of it. So it effectively becomes a 25% down payment on the purchase of a unit. And so when a unit comes on sale, the equity that's captured is through the second mortgage. It stays on title, and down the road, when a person sells the unit would obviously appreciate or depreciate based on market values. And the percentage that stayed on title as the second mortgage grows or shrinks with the market appreciation. So in this case, if a unit has gone up, I think this is also the same example here. It just explains it further. This slide here shows the mechanism of how the Affordable Home Ownership Program works. And what it does is it captures savings through interest from BC Housing. Through the municipal side, it would capture savings through reduced fees, DCCs, CAC contributions, and the developer could also contribute by reducing profits. And all three venues of savings would be able to combine into a lump sum. We attach those to units, And that becomes the equity savings that is usable by a purchaser on their unit, and that stays on title, so it's get registered. And when a unit sells, that second mortgage eventually comes back. And when that comes back, it goes directly to the city to be reapplied into affordable programs for housing. So the second mortgages are no interest, no payment for 25 years. They stay on title. And essentially they would only be discharged if there's a sale, if there's a default on the mortgage, the second mortgage, or if the 25-year term comes to an end. It's the same here. It's the 25-year no interest, no payment, but a homeowner can repay at any time if they choose to, but there's no requirement to be repaid before sale, default, or 25-year period has come up. This slide here shows you the example between a market purchase versus an affordable home ownership purchase. So if both units are exactly the same, identical, they cost $500,000 to start. And if a purchaser comes up with a 5% down payment, which is $25,000, in a market scenario, that would just mean that the first mortgage somebody would have to come up with through their bank or lender would be about $475,000. But in the affordable home ownership example, if there's a 10% second mortgage, that's an additional $50,000 that the purchaser can access, which would lower their first mortgage requirement to $425,000. And since the affordable home ownership program, it counts as equity, and it would reduce your CMHC loan insurance on your mortgage. So that's less payment that you would have to make each month on your mortgage. And the difference between the monthly interest on your mortgage, or principal and interest, is a savings about $300 a month, which would then effectively reduce the income requirement that is needed to purchase that same $500,000 unit. So in this case, a $500,000 unit would require about $108,000 of income on a regular market price purchase. But under affordable home ownership, somebody would be able to qualify for the exact same unit at $96,000 of income. This example here just shows you the appreciation of the units within 5 years, 10 years, and 25 years. This example just assumes that there's an increase of 2% a year. The AHOP value stays 10% no matter what the price is. So we can see here that after 25 years, that second mortgage grows to about $82,000. But then again, so does the equity that the homeowner has. So it helps a purchaser get into a unit, but it also helps grow their investment at the same time.
Are we almost to the end of this?
Yes, I think there's just a couple more slides. So this shows you the buyer eligibility. Just needs to be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, has resided in BC for the last 12 months, and be living in a rental or non-ownership tenure prior to purchase. They don't have to be a first-time purchaser, but they can't own multiple homes at the same time. This is an example in Victoria that was recently done. There was an AHOP savings about $6.2 million. And this was brought in through financing, development cost savings, and city waivers of CACs. And this project that we're talking about in 243 Corfield Place is a bit different. There's 2 units that we're going to be seeing for affordable home ownership. The 2 units are market valued at $630,000, but the price that the developer is going to go through would reduce those prices by about 19%. So savings well over $100,000 to a purchaser. And that's just our contact information if there's any further questions about the program and how it can work.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Oh, Marilyn, please. Councillor Wilson, sorry.
Marilyn's fine. Thank you, through your worship.
Councillor Wilson.
How did you get the market value at 630,000? These are relatively small units, so that seems a little bit high. And I have actually a couple of questions, but maybe that one could be answered first.
Nigel, I'll direct that to you.
Yeah, actually, those numbers didn't come from me, so I can't speak to the financials.
No answer?
No, we'll have to follow up with staff on that one. I apologize, Councillor Wilson.
Sure. No problem. So may I have a follow-up, please, Your Worship?
Please.
From my understanding, this is Raymond from Housing Hub. When we look at any kind of project, typically we get market value through an appraisal. So Ryan, you can confirm if when the submission came into BC Housing, whether we received an appraisal to confirm these numbers. That would typically be how we would confirm the market value.
I don't think I've seen an appraisal yet, but yes, eventually that would be confirmed when this project goes through.
So my other question is, after the 5-year term, will these houses always remain, or these units always remain as affordable home ownership units, or could they revert to something else?
So under the program, these aren't 5-year terms. It's a 25-year second mortgage. Sorry to be late. I guess I wasn't let in at the beginning. So anyways, I had to come in late. So the mortgages are actually 25-year terms, but the individuals who purchase or the households that purchase can sell at any time, whether that's 1 year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, or if they held on to the whole thing for 25 years, then 25 years later, right? They would have to pay out the mortgage. And so what would happen at the time of sale could be two different things. One is it could be sold to a household that does not qualify. So in that particular case, if it's sold to a household that does not qualify, these units revert back to a market unit. And I'll explain what happens after that. The other scenario is that it goes to a qualified buyer, at which case BC Housing would discharge the original mortgage from the original title of the first purchaser, and then recharge a new mortgage for another 25 years at the same percentage, depending on what the value went up or down, right? So if the original value was 500,000 in the hypothetical example, and it was a 10% value, if it went to 600,000, then BC Housing would be registering a $60,000 mortgage in this hypothetical $500,000 example, when the market value went to 600,000 when the purchaser decides to sell in the future. So that's the two scenarios. Under the scenario where it reverts back to market because of the fact that it went to an unqualified buyer, then what would happen is BC Housing would receive the proceeds of that transaction, right? So in the $500,000 to $600,000 example, on a 10% equity situation, BC Housing would receive $60,000. And what we would then do is we would turn around and issue a check over to, in this case, the city of Parksville, to put into an affordable housing fund for you to go ahead and purchase land, for you to put towards other rental or affordable housing or other housing projects that you would want to create in your municipality. So all of these mortgages end up going back to the municipality. once these mortgages do come back to BC Housing. Save and except for a small administration fee, we're guessing probably 1% if we have to administer, many mortgages over time.
Can I also just clarify that? Does that mean then, Raymond, that Parksville has a choice in how we use that money for affordable housing options, or we can BC Housing determine?
It's not a BC Housing determination. It's a BC Housing would put the money into an affordable housing fund that the city would create. And then we would work together to then, however you guys want to spend that money in the future for other, housing, then you can choose to spend that however you want from that perspective, so long as it's for affordable housing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions? All right, we are going to receive a staff report and bylaw considerations later on in the agenda for this one. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council.
Thank you.
We have 3 pieces of correspondence on tonight's agenda. We can take them all at one time, or we can do them individually. Take them all at once.
I'd like to do them individually, please.
All right, thank you. First one. Let me put my glasses on, sorry. From the Wild Wise Society, Carnivores Alliance and Wild Wise Society. I need somebody to make a motion to receive this. Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. Discussion. All those in favor of receiving?
No.
Oh, Marilyn or Councillor Wilson?
Are we doing a favor of receiving, or has that been done?
We're receiving, but we're discussing.
Okay.
Do you have something you wanted to say about it?
I do. Thank you, through you, Your Worship. This brings to mind this rather tragic death of the lone wolf, CwCA, last year, which people may have heard about. He was actually shot by a hunter about 2 months after being relocated. So I believe in this correspondence, they are actually asking for support for the resolution. So I would like to address that. We send out a letter of support for this,
Okay.
if we can.
If that's the case, then what we will do is we will vote to receive it, and then you can make the motion right after.
All right, thank you.
All right, all those in favor of receiving? Carried. All right, now would you like to make the motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion that on behalf of council, staff write a letter to Minister Conroy and the AVIC in support of the District of Oak Bay's resolution prior to the AVICC AGM on May 28th, 2021.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor O'Brien? Comments? Discussion? Councillor Wilson, you have first crack at this.
I just think that it would be very nice to send support along for this. I believe in this, and I think this is a good organization. I did a little reading about them, and I'm not sure that, well, it's my personal feeling. I'm really not too happy about sport hunting, trophy hunting.
Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I support this motion as well to send this letter of support. I too know the backstory on this incident that happened, but it was leading to a much larger, let's just say, slaughter of the wolf population on Vancouver Island. So I think it's important that we stand up at this particular case and stand up for wildlife at this that forms such a vital part of our little corner of our world here.
Any other comments? I would just be noted that I will not be supporting this. Again, I believe that it's outside of our jurisdiction, and It should be handled by the province, not by the city of Parksville or by any other municipality, so I won't be supporting this. There's no other comments. I'll call the question. All those in favor? I'm sorry, could you hold in favor? Councillor Patterson, Councillor Chandler, Councillor O'Brien, and Councillor Wilson. Opposed? It passes. The next correspondence is from the mayor of the city of Penticton, government's use of provincial paramountcy. I need a mover and a seconder to receive. Moved by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Greer. All those in favor of receiving? Discussion? Motions? Moving right along. Secondly, last piece of correspondence from Ms. Helps for Victoria Mayor to support laid off hotel and tourism industry workers. I need a mover and a seconder for the motion moved by, or for the correspondence rather. Councillor Chandler, seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Mr. Russell, are you there?
I am here, Your Worship. I'm just getting my video started. Hello.
There you are. Please give us the background.
Certainly. For council consideration this evening is a zoning and development bylaw amendment application for the subject property at 243 Corfield Street South. The property is within the transitional residential designation of Plan Parksville Official Community Plan. Properties within this land use designation are intended to support medium density housing forms. In this case, the density proposed is virtually identical to what is permitted under its current RS2 zoning. The bylaw amendment is being proposed in order to facilitate 2 of the proposed 5 dwelling units being incorporated under a provincial affordable home ownership program rather than as affordable housing rental units. There's recommendations are as per the agenda.
Thank you. I need a motion. We can take them as all 3, or we can take them individually. 3? You want to take them all 3? All right. Motion. Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just trying to figure out how to phrase. Section 3, that prior to the second reading of the amendment bylaw, the applicant or owner provide an opportunity for public engagement and provide comments received to the Community Planning and Building Department for further introduction to council. So I'm not sure how many public engagements we've had in the last year in regards to development. So I guess that would be my first question to the Director of Planning.
Certainly, if I may, Worship, through to Councillor Patterson. In a number of cases, applicants have taken a different approach doing public engagement during COVID. So that has included mail outs with additional materials, information materials for people to read, as well as an avenue for them to provide comment. Or also some cases developers may host like a Zoom meeting or other method of reaching out.
Would follow up, Your Worship. Sure. Would those comments be coming back to the planning department, or would they form part of the package that the applicant would provide to council?
If I may, Worship, through to Councillor Patterson, essentially they would be both. So they would submit their comments that they've collected through the planning department, as well as what engagement materials they used. We then prepare a staff report and introduce that at the time of consideration of second reading of the zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Mr. Russell. If a question as well on the public engagement. Is a public engagement for all of Parksville, or is it just for the immediate neighborhoods surrounding 243 Corfield?
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor O'Brien, typically we would recommend to a developer to contact properties within 50 meters of the site, as well as to put out a newspaper ad or et cetera to do that outreach. So it's not limited to a specific location. Ultimately, council is the one that's going to determine whether or not it's satisfied with the level of public engagement and how the applicant conducted their public engagement. As council will be deciding whether or not to advance the bylaw and the application, or whether or not to refer it back to the applicant for further engagement.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If I may, Director Russell, is there an exemption for DCCs and for permit fees and so on, because it's still classified as affordable housing for these two units?
If I may, Your Worship, through to yourself, they would not meet the city's definition of affordable housing. As such, without any form of development cost charge bylaw amendment, they would not at this time be eligible for a DCC waiver. These are units that are primarily targeted to folks that have middle income folks that have never had a home ownership opportunity before, whereas our rental program is geared to folks of modest income, hence the difference.
Understood. So there's no exemptions or whatever for DCCs? Or...
Not at this time, Your Worship.
All right, thank you. That's all I needed. If there's no other questions, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Ms. Woods.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got a brief report tonight talking about the contract for the replacement roof on the southern portion of PCTC. A little bit of background information. Back in February, we retained Garland Industries. They're a roofing consultant to help us draft specification and tender documents for this project. We requested all interested companies be a member of the Roofing Contractors Association of BC. In doing so, it helps us to ensure that the professional standards, including education, training, technical support, and safety practices are being upheld, as well as it makes sure that the company gets its certification of recognition, which means it completes all the risk management circles and ensures that both property and the workers are protected. So our goal was to ensure that in this challenging industry that we made sure that all of the safety practices were upheld. In doing so, we put this out to bid. We received 6 responses, all met the compliance of being an RCA BC member, and all met all the specifications outlined in the tender bid. So that being said, we came up with the least expensive contract company, Nelson Roofing. So we're asking that we be authorized to award the contract for the roof replacement in the amount of $238,000 plus applicable taxes to Nelson Roofing. If we are able to have a motion on that tonight approving this contract, we would be able to have this completed in May of this year. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Chandler, seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion? Councillor O'Brien, then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to just a question regarding the process, Ms. Woods. The roof that's failed on the PCTC right now was known as what they call torch on. And I understand that there's new standards and so forth. I'm just wondering, is the new method also a torch on method, or is it applied differently?
So it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same torch on method, but with newer practices and with newer materials. as well as currently the having torch on over top of torch on over top of torch on over years creates some blistering and some other issues. So a part of this bidding process and tendering process was that everything be removed and we start again fresh.
Thank you. I think you answered my question when you said with the different processes that are used now for torch on, they have been considerably different. Unfortunately, they still have a notorious rate of causing fires. And the thing is that I'm assuming that the credentials have been checked of the roofing company that you've chosen anyway, so they have proper fire suppression systems in place at all times before and after the application of this new roof. Because yeah, it would just be disastrous if this happened to the PCTC. So thank you for your consideration of all the safety ends of it. I appreciate that.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, like Councillor O'Brien, I have some concerns. We have had a minor fire already this month regarding a roofing replacement. And I know that in the past, when repairs were done on the PCTC, that there was also a fire present. So my question isn't in regards to the type of work or anything, it's insurance. In the event of anything untoward happening or occurring, is the insurance part of the bid of the contractor to ensure that if something untoward had happened, that or the city's insurance, who would be looking after it, I guess is the question.
Thank you, Your Worship, towards the councillor. I'd have to double check and also talk with Lucky about which insurance would cover if there was a fire. I guess it would have to depend on who was to blame at that point as well. I mean, a big part of our project was to ensure that the folks that we have doing this adhere to the strictest safety standards so that we can have all prevention of that. But I would need to follow up to answer your question.
Any other questions? All right, I will call the questions. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Woods. Mr. Butterworth.
I'm here.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Please.
I guess we're dealing with agenda item 4C.
Yep, that's correct.
It's the important budget of the day, I guess, right? One back east to take second fiddle. So the community charter requires the city to adopt a 5-year financial plan, which includes the current year plus the next 4 years. The public budget meetings on the budget were held virtually on March 8th and March 29th, and many budget adjustments were presented and discussed at those meetings. At the March 29th meeting, council requested several budget changes, and at the April 7th regular council meeting, further capital budget changes were approved by council resolution. Also, the final property tax assessments were received subsequent to the March 29th budget meeting, and these resulted in some minor reductions to the property tax revenues. So all of the above changes just mentioned subsequent to March 29th are detailed on Appendix A to the report. The city's accumulated surpluses for the general fund and water utility fund are within recommended amounts for the 5 years of the plan, and the accumulated surplus for the sewer utility fund falls below recommended levels for 2024 and 2025. The recommendation is as per the agenda.
Need a mover and a seconder for both recommendations. Moved by Councillor Patterson, second by Councillor Chandler. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Mr. Butterworth, would you like to continue with the 2021 municipal property tax rates?
Yes, Your Worship, if I may. Section 197 of the Community Charter requires council to establish property tax rates for its own purposes and to meet the tax requirements of the regional district. The financial plan included a 3.5% property tax increase for all classes except Class 5. The Class 5 light industry increase is 10.8%, and this is part of a multi-year strategy to equalize the Class 5 tax rate to the Class 6 business rate. 0.5% of the tax rate increases are being transferred into a reserve for future capital needs. For the average assessed residential property, the municipal portion of the tax increase amounts to approximately $56, and the total increase, when you include the regional district taxes, is approximately $84. The school taxes are not known at this time. The recommendation is as per the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you for all the staff that put such hard work into preparing this. I need a mover and a seconder for the 4 recommendations. Councillor Greer, second by Councillor O'Brien. Are there any discussions? I'll call the question. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to echo your comments and thank staff and Director Butterworth. And that I know that it's challenging, and I hope that our residents appreciate the amount of work and everything it takes to keep rates at an amount that can be justified.
Thank you. Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Mr. Butterworth, keep going. You're doing great.
Running out of breath here. So this is a report on the sewer rate parcel tax rate change. So section 200 of the community charter allows council to impose parcel taxes to provide funding for a service. So parcel taxes have historically been based on the minimum rate charge to the charge to the connected sewer rate payers. The 2021 to 2025 financial plan includes inflationary sewer rate increases of 5% for 2021. So the 2020 parcel tax rate was $164.59, and a 5% increase brings it to $172.82. There are 182 sewer parcels impacted by this. The recommendation is as per the agenda.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for the 3 recommendations. Councillor O'Brien, second by Councillor Chandler. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Mrs. Kaler.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is pertaining to the pool and advisory technical working group. And so on February 1st of this year, Council approved the receipt of the feasibility study and then also endorsed a work plan which contained this item coming forward at this time frame. So this is to fulfill that approval. And essentially what staff has done is put together a draft terms of reference for this advisory technical group that would also work closely with the consultation strategy. So as council is aware, the RFP for the consultation went out on April 1st. And also in conjunction with that was the RFP for the studies, quite a few different studies that would be very scientific and technical in nature. And so this fulfills that work plan kind of in conjunction with those 2 items moving forward. This would provide neutral technical advice to council and in sort of in essence translate some of that complex scientific information for both the public and council to digest, and essentially work with staff to, similar to how the ADP or other advisory expert panels will work with staff to bring back recommendations to council, and also I guess address concerns or issues that would come up from the public on those technical scientific reports. So recommendations are per the agenda, and I think that's everything. We would, if council approves, we would go and post it, but we would do a minimum period of 3 weeks. And then if there was not sufficient interest, we could have the option to extend.
Okay, thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for both recommendations. Councillor Patterson, second by Councillor Greer. Discussion. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to CAO Kaler. I'm just wondering now, like, is this the same resolution that we passed anyways, like on March 29th, which was 21-105, to engage a professional consultant to coordinate scientific and technical assessments of Despard and to the Despard site to provide counsel? Or you had mentioned a previous date as February 1, where we described it as the advisory technical working group.
Yes,
Fill me in on that, please.
Sure.
How we got to that, or I don't have that on my notes.
Sure, if I may, Your Worship. On February 1st, council received the feasibility report, and there was a work plan attached as Schedule A to that. I'll just find it here in my notes. So actually it came before council in a closed meeting in January, but on February 1st was when everything was released to the public. And so council approved Appendix A, or Schedule A, which was a work plan for the multiplex project. And at that time, it was the Scientific Technical Advisory Working Group Terms of Reference, Advertising, Appointments, and Admin Support, commencing in April 2021. So this would basically be the start of that with the terms of reference. And then if council approves, we would do the advertising. Council would then appoint folks who they deem qualified. And then admin support is provided through the terms of reference as well, in terms of staff's role.
Thank you. Follow up,
Yeah,
if I may.
please.
Yeah. Also, see, my understanding is I get the fact of bringing in an advisory technical group, but this is I have two issues with this. The one issue is that, to me, the timing is not quite right. The timing to me should be after we've had some consultation with the public, with the community. I understand part of the direction we gave you was to hire a consultant to do that. What I'm suggesting is that this position should actually be advertised after we've had some consultation. And the fact, because a lot of this would be covering the advisory technical working group, would be discussing site locations. I looked at the background anyways, and to describe mitigative measures and so forth. But what I'm suggesting that if we've had some public consultation that says, like we're getting a lot on the Let's Talk platform anyways, that are just saying they don't like the Springwood Despard site. And so the thing is that this could all be for naught. The thing is that what I'm saying is we should have confirmation from the public that they are satisfied that the Springwood Despard site is the correct site, or do they want us to consider other sites? Because if we put this out now, it's like saying, well, this is the only site that we're considering right now. And the thing is that I don't like the fact that this site was decided all in camera without having public consultation. So I'm saying it's a good idea, but only once we've established the fact that the public actually is wanting for sure at Springwood Despard. It's like putting the cart before the horse to do this. That's my first question.
Sure. If I may, Your Worship. So the intent would be that this group would be, it could certainly be appointed after the public consultation consultant is selected if council wishes, but the intent, as we discussed, I guess, or staff's understanding of council's wishes was that this group would actually be a part of that. So they would assist with providing recommendations on the siting based on the technical information that's out there. So for example, if 3 studies are done in June and July on hydrogeology, geotech, and traffic, let's say, then this panel, along with the public consultation process, which would be lay folks and just anybody that's interested, the panel would review that information, review the input, the reports from the consultant on the input, and they would actually provide recommendations. So the first role, I guess, letter E, is make recommendations on the siting, the facility siting, access, traffic control, and parking. So we envision them as part of that process and just in deciding whether or not the site would be suitable or not. So that was kind of how it was envisioned to work in conjunction and the timing line up so that when the consultant is selected for the public consultation, very soon after, there's actually that panel to assist with those processes in the summer.
So what you're saying is that if this technical panel has a look at it and they say there's a lot of issues with this site, or the public does not want it, it's still possible to change it to a different site. Is that correct?
If I may, Your Worship, absolutely. Yeah, I think this panel is really to help determine, what those constraints could be or what the mitigative measures could be, and also listen to the community's thoughts and, incorporate. It's kind of like a three-pronged approach. So you've got the technical studies happening and a consultant managing that and coordinating that. You've got the public consultation happening and probably the same consultant or a different consultant managing that. And then this panel is really for council to say, like we do with the ADP, was the architect right in this case? Is there something that we could be thinking? And they would provide advisory recommendations to council based on all of those things that are kind of moving all at once. So they'd be like a touchstone for council to give you neutral comments or neutral advice or considerations that you should be asking, like say, for example, with the hydrogeological study, have you thought to ask question A, B, and C? Because we just don't have the in-house capability all the time for that kind of thing. So that was the intent.
I see, because the thing is that I find it difficult to believe that we're going to find somebody that's a professional, but probably retired and so forth, that is going to do this for no charge. Because, really you want someone that's going to say, I'm going to sign off of this and say, like, the concerns that the public has, on the Despard site, is it going to affect our water? Is it going to, our domestic water system? I find it interesting that an unpaid consultant would say, yes, like there's going to be no problem with the aquifer, no problem with the watershed, and no problem with the wells. I mean, it's a big recommendation to make and so forth. And so like to be considered for that. And as well, the public consultation would also provide the knowledge of what the public wants, the people of Parksville, whether we want a swimming pool or a swimming pool plus multiplex and so forth, which is critical that we establish that first before we even look at any site, because it's going to determine the size of the site. If the public say that they want a pool only, it's going to be a smaller site than if they want a pool plus multiplex. So what I'm saying is that this should be happening, but we have to have the engagement of the public earlier before this starts happening. I don't want to be railroaded into this just being the only site is what I'm getting at. Is that I think that there's other sites that have to be considered. So.
All right, I'll let you, and then we're going to move on.
If I may, Worship, I just wanted to point out that there are quite a few of the professional associations that actually give pro-development or pro-D hours to their folks for like the architects that would serve on the ADP or engineers and things. So this would not be the paid element. Some companies would be paid through the other RFP we've put out to do the studies. These guys on this panel would really just be reviewing the results of the studies and then volunteering on the board or on the panel like folks do for the ADP. So similar kind of idea. They don't do the work for the developer, but they review the other architect's work. So that's kind of the intent.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Well, I will be voting in favor of these recommendations. It only makes sense. The consultants that will come out, they will provide all of the technical stuff. There's nobody sitting around this table that can understand all the different technicalities that are going to go into this. The technical working group will take the information and hopefully be able to bring it to council, something that we can all make sense out of and we understand what it is. As far as this is no different, as far as finding somebody to work, we're finding architects that are doing it for free with the ADP at the current time. I don't see what difference that would make. And if we don't, then we'll have to look at a different way. But, and as far as, well, this isn't the site. It is the site. It is the site we're looking at right now until proven otherwise. So we keep going forward. You keep going back to that. The reality is unless this site is proven that it's not going to work through the consultant and through the advisory technical working group, this is the site we've proposed, we've put forward. Once we've got it all done, we will then take that to the community and say, this is what we've got based on all this information. And here's what you should be looking at, and let them make the decision at that point in time and provide the input that they have then. But we keep going around in circles on this. This here recommendation was the exact same recommendation that came out of the work plan. By the way, that you seconded the motion for the work plan, and it says right there that it explains what the idea of what this advisory technical working group would be and when it would be applied. So I'm not sure why we're even having concerns about this. This is a good thing. The public should appreciate the fact that we're giving them all. I will take issue with making decisions behind in camera. We've had all of these decisions from December on in open council for what's going on here since we received the report. We have hid nothing. And know that decisions haven't been made in camera on this. We proposed the site, and that's the way it was. So I'm not going to go belabor this anymore. I would just leave it at that. Thank you. Quickly.
So what you've just said, Your Worship, is that this site is the site, and that's the way it is until proven otherwise, and without public consultation. You're saying this is the site. So you're saying it didn't happen behind closed doors, but it did. The choosing of this site did. And the thing is that without public consultation, you're saying this is it until it has to be proven that this is not the site?
Must be getting close to election time.
Well, it must be getting close to having open council meetings where the public can get in here to say what they really feel. Unfortunately, what's happening is the pandemic has limited public engagement. And that's the trouble with this whole thing. To say that that this is the site, that it has to be proven that it is not the site. And then on the Let's Talk site, they listed other sites that we had talked about, like in camera, that possible locations to everything. And then it appeared on the Let's Talk website. And it also had ratings on it as this is not really such a good site for this. That was the first time I'd seen it, was on the Let's Talk. We have, as council, haven't seen that. So the thing is for you to now say that this is the site and it's got to be proven outside, that's wrong. I won't have a part of that.
That's fine. I will call the question then. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Wilson, of course.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's one thing I just want to take note of, that the qualifications of this technical advisory group are pretty high that staff are asking. So I just wanted to say that I think that you're probably going to get some pretty knowledgeable people anyway. And I think that I do agree that the group itself, having them right now, is probably a good idea, along with all of the other tests that are going on, or the RFPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Fraz.
Thank you. And through the mayor to council, I just want to make a comment when we're talking about site selection and that there is no perfect site in Parksville to place a pool. I think everyone's done their best to try to find spots, and to suggest that there's other areas that we could just jump on. It makes it sound like there's an easy solution. We can't plan to build a pool on places that we don't own. We can't assume that we know that the public would be willing to purchase properties that we don't own. I don't see us being able to buy a property and then propose it to them. And maybe then they wouldn't like that property. Like there's got to be a starting point here. So I think starting with properties that we own is a great place to start. I agree that we all looked at these properties and recognized challenges with all of them. there's nobody that has just an easy answer for this. And I'm not trying to discount what you say, Councillor O'Brien, but just the way that you're making it sound is like that it's an easy choice that we don't all struggle with. I haven't heard anybody in the community who doesn't contemplate where's the best place to put a pool. Is it out of town? Is it in town? Is it? So I think it's an issue that we do all have to work together on, recognizing that at the end of the day, we're going to have to all have some voice in it. And we might not all like it, but where's the perfect spot for this? I don't really think there is. So I just want to mention that because it upsets me a little bit to make it seem like there's a battle between, that someone's trying to push it forward or push it through. We don't have a perfect solution to this.
We're not trying to steamroll this particular location. It was the location that all of council, or the majority of council, decided democratically that this is the one we were going to go forward with. The process that we are going through with is the exact same process we've been talking about all the time. We were going to hire consultants. Consultants were going to put together all of their reports. It was going to go to the advisory technical working group, which hopefully will be made up of very high efficient people that know exactly what is necessary. They will make their recommendations. Then we will take that to the public and say, public, this is what we see on this particular site. At the end of the day, this is all for the public. It is not for us. I mean, quite honestly, none of us at this table promised that we were going to build a swimming pool. We said we would propose a swimming pool and bring it forward to the public for their input. They have to vote on it. It has to go to a referendum. They will have the final say on any of this. This is nothing that's going to be done behind closed doors or in secret or anything else. We will follow the process that we have put in place all the way along, that was voted on back on February the 1st or the 2nd, whatever it was, that you in fact approved. You seconded the motion and you voted in favor of this whole process. So we're not doing anything wrong here. We're doing what we should be doing and looking at this effectively. We can't start running around and saying, oh, what about that site? What about this site? What about that site? Oh, maybe we should look at that site. Oh, there's a site down the road that is $9 million. We can take that. Let's stick with the one like we were advised to do right from the beginning. Put it through the process, and then at that time, if it has too many problems, then we move on to another site. If it fits the bill, then we keep going with that particular site. That is what we all agreed to, or what we voted for democratically as a majority of council. So having said that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the recommendations 1 and 2? Opposed? Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Wilson, I didn't see you vote either way. I'm sorry. In favor? Okay, thank you.
I voted in favor.
Thank you very much. I just didn't see your hand. My apologies. Bylaws, first reading, bylaw number 2000.131, map and text amendment to comprehensive development CD 31-243, Corfield Street South. I need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Chandler, seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 3 readings. The Alternative Municipal Tax Collection Scheme Bylaw 2021, number 1571. A bylaw to alter the general tax collection scheme and penalty dates for unpaid taxes. I need a mover and a seconder for that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Greer, seconded by Councillor Fraz. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 3 readings. 5-year financial plan bylaw 2021 to 2025, number 1572. I need a mover and a seconder for that. We're going to be here all night if people don't put their hands up. Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Number 3, tax bylaw 2021, number 1573, setting of municipal property tax rates for 2021. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Greer, second by Councillor Chandler. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Three readings, sewer parcel tax amendment bylaw 2021, number 1493.8, adjust sewage system parcel rates. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Final adoption, the emergency program regulator bylaw 2021, number 1570, 3 readings provided April the 1st. I need a mover and a seconder for it. Councillor Patterson, Councillor Greer, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Parks and open spaces. Any comments from Councillor Frazo or Councillor O'Brien on that?
Thank you. We had the Parks Open Spaces meeting Thursday, April 1st by Zoom. I think you got your minutes on pages 7 and 8 there. Some of the highlights I think mentioning there is one that staff identified. There's some parks with very confusing duplicate names on them. And we're asking for some suggestions of how we'd like to go about with dealing with them. And we suggested that we look at changing some names and perhaps getting some public input as far as to what they'd like to see for that neighborhood, or what any kind of suggestions they might put forward, just for the ones where there's duplicates or confusing parts. So it's not renaming popular parks that are well known, like Foster Park, for example, and that, but perhaps something like, Shelley Parks, if there's multiple Shelleys, 3 of them or so on, things like that. If you want to, I don't know if you want to. Oh, okay, yes, fair enough. Yes, true. I guess I'll just reiterate the fact too, the point of our Parks and Open Spaces Committee is so we can make recommendations so that council can endorse them. So with that being said, that being a suggestion come out of it, I'd like to make a motion that council endorses to allow staff to, I don't know how to word this motion appropriately therefore, but as written in the minutes here, assigning names and addresses to city parks and green spaces as identified by staff to create a potential list of names for parks that would require renaming for council to review.
You second? Seconded by Councilor O'Brien.
Sorry, if I may, Your Worship, this is going to become a trend again, but just if we could get some sense of direction from council on the priority, is this something that we can do as staff time comes up, or is it something that should be bumping something else off? Just some thoughts.
If I could answer that then, I would say that this would be something that for staff to decide on the priority. This was a staff brought up item out of them. So that would be my suggestion, but if anyone feels otherwise.
Okay. Are we good then? Any other discussion? Oh, Councillor O'Brien? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. And just to follow through with Councillor Fraz, the other item that came up during the last meeting is to let the public know that the contract for the urban forest strategy consultant has been awarded. And the expected timeline for that is a 10 to 12 month completion date. And so the thing is that we will, and in that urban forest strategy that's going forward, there is a public consultation and engagement sessions with a consultant that will be very important for the citizens of Parksville to be able to weigh in anyways on their thoughts of the urban forest. So that was a really good news decision that came through. Do we need a motion? No,
No, we already have one.
We already, that's been.
No, we haven't voted.
Just
on it.
wanted to be clear,
sorry.
we have a motion on the floor for
You just
that.
jumped the gun a slight bit.
Okay.
Hold your thoughts.
Right.
All right. I'm going to call the question for the first motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, now please, Councillor O'Brien.
And that's it. Yeah, I was just, the urban forest strategy was on my choice here. So that's good. Thank you. Unless I add
The other part that I'll mention then too is we asked them about there's the trampolines in the community park. They were boarded up for a little while there, sustained some damage, but can tell you that they have been replaced and they're serviceable now. I was out bouncing on them yesterday, so they're working pretty good. Another item that was brought up that I think is worth mentioning too is because it does get a lot of public feedback. I think even today we received an email talking about signages in the park. So we had spoke about that, about, you know, the idea of whether we have temporary signage to for things like biking on the boardwalk there, just, and whether it be just a informal kind of like requesting people to respect each other with biking, or if it would be something that, you know, was a rule put in place. In the past, we had had a sign strategy we were discussing as well, but I think if everyone recalls too, that we went through to kind of clean up some of the staff workload, and that was one of the things that was bumped down the list or taken off for the time being too. So there's not going to be any movement in that direction for now, but I just wanted to, I'll get our CO to put input in there too, but I just thought I'd mention it because it is something that comes up fairly frequently.
If I may, Your Worship, I mentioned this to you earlier as a possible solution that staff could attempt just to do some news releases, or just like we do with Brant and other things, where we remind folks how to behave or what the expectations are in public spaces. And so we are looking at redoing our website this year. So next year we could probably have a much better web page with, you know before you go kind of in the park. But as an interim measure, I'm sure within the communications department, we can work to include some of the more common things like smoking and dogs on the beach and bikes and all that kind of thing, just in a normal kind of welcoming summer news release. So I think we could try to tackle it that way.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. And also discussed at the last meeting anyways, we had cost estimates anyways for the branch chipping program that is happening as we speak. Actually, it will be completed hopefully by the end of this month now. Just to let council be aware that the costs continue to grow every year, and it was a substantial increase this year. We discussed how important it is for the residents anyways, that they do really like the branch shipping program. And the thing is that we just suggested to our Parks Department to keep an eye on costs and moving forward type of thing, because we want to make sure that we're not getting paying excessive exorbitant amounts just because of supply and demand, because these people are so busy. So the thing is that it's going to happen, it's happening as we speak right now, but we're going to be watching the costs and quotations for next year quite carefully anyways, to make sure that they don't continue to escalate and be unsustainable, you know, from a service point of view.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's beyond me why we even have to be saying to be courteous in the park, and with riding your bike at breakneck speeds down the boardwalk, or smoking in areas where we are not cleaning up after your dogs. Folks, we've got one of the nicest parks in the province. Why can't we just treat it like that and just be courteous to everybody in the park? It's beyond me. I was sitting at the beach club on the patio yesterday, and I was watching bicycle riders going up and down. The majority of them were very courteous and drove at proper speed, rode at proper speeds. But my God, there was a couple of them, and there was 2 electric bikes that, I mean, other than, they thought they were Evel Knievel on this boardwalk, just whipping down there. And the boardwalk was crowded as hell. And it's beyond me why people act like they do. So please bear in mind that other people use that facility. Thank you. Notice of motions. Oh, Councillor Patterson, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Sorry, Your Worship, it's not a notice of motion. It's just a question of clarification. If it was sent through city staff, or was it part of the Parks and Open Spaces recommendation? In my mail today, there was the, I hardly got to glance at it, sorry, as I just came home to change. It was feedback sent from our communications officer in regards to one of the parks.
If I may, Your Worship, yes, there was two, I believe it was 2 parks identified by staff that they were looking for some input on, what people would like to see in the park. We did discuss actually at our session in December that broad surveys we would try to avoid them. But I think in this particular case, there was just some commitments made to those neighborhoods that we would, and again, I think as everyone is noticing, it's very difficult for us to engage. And so the decision was made to do a pretty easy survey for those 2 because of the timing lined up with the billing. So I forget off the top of my head which 2 parks it is now. But I think it was.
Why I remember it and everything is that it was by itself. I actually didn't have a bill attached to it. So that's why I was like,
Bonus.
oh.
Councillor Greer.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Getting back to the bikes on the beach, I'm down there most days and I ride my bike a lot down there and I go very slow, but I've had a lot of complaints about bikes that are going too fast, and I can assure you there are a number of bikes that are flying down there. And I think before somebody gets hurt or before we run into some kind of trouble down there, I think it has to be looked at, and maybe some signs, particularly signs for bikes saying that you must go slow. It might help. And maybe if the bylaw enforcing officers would spend a bit of time down there on busy weekends, they might be able to hand out some tickets. But I think it's going to be a problem we're going to face down the road. And I think we should be taking a long look at it now. But some kind of signage for bikes only, must go slow, or fines will be distributed. Something that's going to hit them. Because there are a number of guys that are really driving fast. And now with these electric bikes, as you mentioned, they're even going to go faster. So we have to be concerned about that. And I think maybe could come up with some ideas on how to slow those bikes down before somebody gets hurt.
Mrs. K. Mrs. Kaler, please. Sorry.
Thank you, Worship. So I've just been reminded that it's Ermineskin and Woodlands, and it's folks within 500 meters of those 2 parks that got the surveys.
Okay.
But with respect to this, the biking issue, I think part of the reason why it was deferred is that it's not just as simple as putting up the signs. We don't actually have a bylaw right now. So what I think as an interim solution before we do the work plan, maybe for next year, is we would work with the communications department, as I mentioned, just to get the information out there. And then we also, the police work with us. Our staff sergeant attends our meetings every week, so we can mention it to them because they are looking at doing foot patrols and bike patrols in the summer throughout the downtown. And there might be some motor vehicle, like some other provincial regulation that they could actually issue tickets for. So we'll certainly mention that to them. And then if council does want to make this a project either for next work plan or replace the priority of the current work plan, we can certainly look at a bylaw amendment and a bigger project out of that as well.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the signage issue, I'm with Councillor Greer on this one, that I understand that the signage, the problem is making them enforceable. We're not asking for bylaw officers or police officers or any other constabulary to enforce this. What we were addressing is what's commonly called as a courtesy sign. As the mayor's mentioned, it'd be nice if you didn't have to say that, but unfortunately some people have to be reminded to be courteous of their fellow pedestrians and users of the boardwalk. So what we had suggested was just a courtesy sign just at each end of the boardwalk. It'd be 2 signs, 1 at each end. Out of courtesy to others, please dismount from your bicycle on this boardwalk. And just as that, not as per bylaw 1604, or this is like you'd be enforced, just as a courtesy to others, please dismount. Very simple. It's a courtesy sign, and we're not asking for enforcement by BCO or the RCMP. There's no bylaw to enforce it. We're just saying, as we say, we shouldn't have to say it, but be courteous. And that would do an awful lot. And I can say 2 incidents I ran into last week was people down at the boardwalk telling another person that was walking on the beach with their dog on a leash. They were enforcing, saying, oh, you can't take your dog on the leash right away. They were enforcing it. It wasn't a BCO that was doing it. They were saying, you can't take your dog on the beach, period, because of the brand festival. And the people kind of say, oh, I didn't know. I thought it was just not on the foreshore. No, they said anywhere on the beach. And they did it nicely. And the people said that I did not know that. And so the people were enforcing it. So that's who would be enforcing it. If there's a sign on both sides, it would be the people walking down the boardwalk that would say, they just point to the sign, and just as a courtesy, please dismount off your bike. The incident that I saw is a bicyclist there's a lot of dog walkers that use the boardwalk. And the dog had gone, and like they do on those extendable leashes, gone to the other side. And the bicycle came over in between the person walking the dog and the dog and ran over the leash. And I thought, oh my God, this little cockapoo has almost become a squishapoo. So the thing is, and another person recognized me as I was walking further on. She says, you have to do something about this. And she was not happy because she had a dog too. So the thing is that I think a courtesy sign, it's a quick fix. And I know staff are busy, but this is not, we're not trying to get something enforced. And the signs went up really quick for the back center next door here was just wonderful that staff got on it. So close, but we are getting, as council members, we are getting emails, and we are getting affronted in the park by saying, you got to do something about this, folks. And Councillor Greer notices, because I know he's down there a lot too. I think we have to do something about it soon. And I understand the communication on the website, but these people are not watching the website before they're riding their electric bikes down there. So I think it would be a big help.
So if I may, Your Worship, obviously if council passes a motion, and I would request that we get some direction on the priority of what we stop doing. As I mentioned, this is the busiest time for ops, and we have over a dozen new projects in the last 2 months that have been kind of on ops plate. And so I think, I've mentioned some of my concerns about having signs as courtesy signs. While it may seem that doesn't put a lot of workload on our staff, it really does, because people expect that we're going to be doing something about the sign that we have. And so whether it's no smoking, or don't ride your bike into people, or keep your dog on a leash, or whatever it is, there is an expectation that when somebody's down there and they see a bike and they call us and say, you have a sign, and someone's on a bike, they do expect that we're going to react. So I just put that caution out there. And I think what we had talked about as part of this bigger project was that it would be a comprehensive sign strategy with some criteria, with some design elements, so that the signs all look kind of the same. Because we have heard on the other side from some, including even the PDBA with this wayfinding program, that we have too many unattractive signs, I guess, that just say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And what we were trying to avoid is kind of that ad hoc, confusing, like some signs are regulatory, some signs aren't. So if this is really important for council, we will certainly replace another project and do it. But I think we just need the direction from council as to what you want us to do and what you want us to not do. Or do you want us to try and just do it off the side of the desk? Or we're just really struggling with capacity issues, as I've mentioned. So we just need a bit more direction from you on that.
I'll be with you in a second, Councillor Greer. Just a curious question. I know that there's a simple answer to this. Why don't we just ban bicycles on the boardwalk? Would that not solve the problem? Is there a reason why we're not doing that?
Sorry, if I may, Your Worship, we still just that would need a bylaw amendment.
I understand that, but I'm just asking instead of a sign, because my fear is that you're going to put a sign up, and I think Councillor O'Brien's right. Nobody's going to pay attention to the some of the other methods of communication. Are they in fact going to listen about the walk and the bike rather than riding it? It's better than nothing, But at this point in time, would it not be better for us to discuss whether we should be eliminating bicycles on the boardwalk altogether?
Sorry to jump in, but we do have a traffic circulation plan that's currently being reviewed by a consultant. And our timeline right now is to bring that back as a workshop for council. So it has pedestrian and vehicle circulation flow. So it identifies where bike lanes or walking paths, crosswalks, and traffic flow. And so we're just doing the final stages, final tweaks through parks at the moment. And the timing would be that sort of late summer, early fall, we wanted to do a half-day workshop with council to review the options and any kind of capital changes that council might see. So that might be somewhere where we could tackle it without a new project coming forward. But
I hear you on that, but now we're going to go through the summer months. I'll be with both in a second, but we're going to be going through the summer months with, so then it falls back to, do we put a sign up for temporary until this gets reviewed? And you know, fortunately, the cost of putting a sign up is not that significant with us having our own sign department, you know, being able to do that. So maybe that's what we do. We put the sign up for temporary, much like the four-way stop up at Despard, to put that up until we can get to the actual meat of the potatoes of it, and put it on this report for fall discussion.
if I may, Your Worship, as I mentioned, though, it's not just the staff time for the sign. That's relatively easy. It's the expectations and the follow-up.
Understand.
So I just want council to be aware. We are struggling right now. So I'm
Understand.
just trying
I
to communicate
appreciate it.
that so my staff know that you know.
We know, we're aware. Thank you. Councillor Greer and then Councillor Frass.
Thank you, Your Worship. Being a bike rider down there myself, I was afraid someone would come up with the idea of borrowing bikes. And I would not like to see that personally. However, and as far as the signs go and what we could do or might not do, if our staff is that busy, I don't think it's something that has to be done right now. The boardwalk's been there for what, 18 years? And it's worked. I'm sure we could go somewhat time later when staff, and make it not a priority, but something that they could do when things aren't so busy. But I don't think it has to be done right now, but you know, maybe a couple of signs might be the easiest way to go. But I certainly don't want to see, because there's a number of people, there's a huge number of people that ride bikes down there and enjoy it. And there's just a few crazies now. But I don't think it's a top priority. As I say, we've had the bike path down there for 18 years. So, and nobody, to my knowledge, has been injured yet. But it's bound to happen sooner or later. Thanks.
Councillor Frass, 11 years, by the way.
Thank you. As far as banning bikes, I don't think that's the way that we need to go. There's just for the simplicity of that, people that want to maybe ride down to the beach, sit on a bench down there, or one of the benches along the boardwalk to take in the sunset or things like that. I think they should be able to do so. Just when you get down to the boardwalk, to dismount the bike, it's something to give them the reminder, like Councillor Bryan says, as a courtesy, because otherwise you can kind of get stuck in that little world and hey, it's easy to just stay on your bike and pedal along. But if you saw someone that said, hey, just consider to where you are, you know, dismount your bike if you're going to the bench. This has been for every year we've been here, we've been getting these kind of requests. I think this is something that people really want to see down there. A lot of the people, some people, they don't mind it the way it is, but just touching on the workload, the staff workload. So what I'm starting to recognize is that issue isn't going away. I mean, from the day that we got here, staff had a full workload. We looked at what types of things we could reprioritize for them. We try to ease off it, but day-to-day things constantly pop up, and our residents are always looking for things that they interact with day-to-day. Biking in there, crosswalks, garbage cans, it's ongoing, but those are the things that we need to address. And I get the fact of what are we going to replace it with, but perhaps it's some things go into the queue and they get addressed when they're able to. Understanding that they take a while, and it might be a little while before a sign can be made, but I do think that we should acknowledge it, have had discussion, put it in the queue, and when we're able to get there, we get there. But otherwise, we're going to be coming back to this conversation. How many times have we already had this? We've talked about the bikes numerous times in our parks committee. Then it was decided we'd go under the sign strategy. Then the sign strategy got amended. Here we are years later, still talking about the same thing. So we might as well agree to it, put it in the queue and when we're able to. Otherwise, we're just going in circles.
I'm open for suggestions here. So Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to echo Councillor Fraz. We've gone back and forth on this, but these things do come up and we have to be able to react. And we didn't anticipate electric bikes actually becoming so acceptable now, type of thing. And they're so silent and they're so fast. And you see people startle when the electric bike comes up behind them because they don't know they're there. So that's also one of the problems is they weren't around 2 years ago and now they're everywhere. So that is added to the desperate nature that we're describing here. I understand what the mayor's trying to do by maybe bylaw, change, but the thing is that I understand also the complexities of doing a bylaw change or an amendment to it. So I'm saying, no, let's just keep it simple. It's the KISS formula here. It's just, sorry. Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we just put up 2 courtesy signs to dismount while riding on the boardwalk. Yes, that's my motion.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I can't agree with that because there's no point in riding down there if you have to walk with your bicycle.
Just on the boardwalk.
I realize that, but it's a nice ride on the boardwalk with a bike. As I say, I do it all the time and I don't have any troubles because I'm going quite slow. It's just, and a lot of people do enjoy it. So it's what? Yeah, it's a courtesy sign, but still you're telling people that you have to dismount your bike. I think it's just a matter of maybe slowing them down somehow by making a sign that would be more effective. But I don't see people walking with their bike down there.
Yes, yeah, and that's a good suggestion. Maybe we can tweak the courtesy, as Councillor Frez said. Please dismount, or please, approach cautiously, or dismount, or consider dismounting. You don't have to dismount for some people, but the thing is,
probably nobody will do that.
Well, at least they're knowing that other people on the boardwalk are going to be watching them and saying, hey, you're going too fast, or hey, doing this. But now it is people just think, well, it could be considered a bike lane because they don't know, right? I mean, there's a lot of bicyclists that don't know that that's not a bike lane. So the thing is that
I think a sign that just says you must go slow on a bicycle, or fines will be presented or something. Anyway.
I got you, Councillor Wilson.
Go slow and be courteous. Okay. Can I amend the motion to that? Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to suggest that the wording might be something along the lines of, we ask, please be courteous to pedestrians, or as a courtesy to pedestrians, please consider dismounting your bike when on the boardwalk. Yeah. So that you give people a choice, and it really puts the responsibility on their plate rather than making a demand, and it will ensure that it doesn't go back to staff to enforce. Something along the line as a courtesy to pedestrians.
Councillor Fraz.
I think our role here is to get our intentions across to staff. I would suggest we maybe leave the wordsmithing to them. They hear what we're saying as far as the going slow or dismounting, and plus if they're the ones that have to deal with the feedback, then they may be able to suggest what would work best.
So if I may, Your Worship, I think this just sort of demonstrates the challenge that we have with this. So what does go slow mean? What does be courteous mean? What if I have a 2-year-old with one of those push bikes and he happens to go a bit too fast and hit someone with a dog? I get what you're saying, and I understand that there's a concern where one or two or several people are being discourteous, but I'm, number one, not sure that a sign is going to help that. And what we've experienced in the past is that when you put a sign up, it actually can lead to conflict between the users because they think that you're not going slow enough. And it says to go slow and you're not going slow for me, whereas for the biathlon person, they are going slow. And so that's part of the challenge that we face, is that it's not clear whether this is a regulation for folks. It's not clear what slow means. It's not like, if there's nobody on the boardwalk, can I go as fast as I want if it's, 7 in the morning on a Monday or something? So I think that's just part of what we struggle with. And if council wants to give us direction to do bikes go slow and be courteous, we will. And that's what we'll do. But I just think that, a sign with more than 2 or 3 words, people don't even look at. There's already a
Let's go slow and be courteous.
very large number.
Yeah.
We have that motion on the floor.
If I may make amendment to bikes go slow and be courteous.
When you listen to the whole conversation, it's amazing how complicated something as simple as being courteous creates. It's unbelievable. So now we're at go slow and be courteous.
Bikes go slow and be courteous.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yes.
It is, he's just, no, they're just amending. Okay. All right, so we've got that. Any other discussion on this? Let's wrap this up, folks. It's gone on for about 40 minutes now, so. Yeah, we are
That's
going
what we're
slow
doing.
and being courteous.
We're trying to be.
All those in favor of the motion? All right, opposed? It's carried. Let's make it to staff that it's not the highest of priorities, that they do it as we, okay, we'll leave it with you. Now, speaking of priorities, let's get on to notices of motion and see if we can add more to the pile. Councillor Frass, you have a notice of motion.
I have a notice of motion that was put forward at our last meeting, is written in our agenda there. I don't know if I need to read it out for everybody or, yeah, okay. And for, I guess, yeah, viewers there. It says staff be directed to review and report back to council within 6 months, the number and location of current city garbage cans in the downtown, and come back to council with a strategy for more even and convenient distribution. Also to inform the PDBA council's intention of reorganizing the current inventory of garbage cans in the downtown core from McVicker Street to McMillan Street.
Okay, so notice of motion. All right, pardon?
This is,
Okay, we can bring it up then.
yeah, this was put forward at our last
So we
meeting.
need a
so-
seconder. Councillor Parish then. Seconding. Discussion?
Okay, so if I may.
Yes, it's yours.
This, again, this is an item that we've touched on a number of times, but we haven't had any formal motion come forward or make any amendments to the way we do garbage cans in there. So I thought this is something we need to do to see if we're meeting the current needs of our residents and the expectations. And judging off the fact that we've had 7 requests come up previously on garbage cans, I'd say that we haven't made any progress in meeting their needs there, or we're not meeting their needs. There's things I've noticed in our downtown, and I should just start by saying, like, I'm focusing just on our downtown so that we have some kind of starting block. Because I know when we go in to do things like our workshops for the community and that, we're going to be looking at things like service levels. And if we talk about service levels, we got to know where we're at to be able to know what we're trying to achieve. And right now, we don't know where we're at. We don't have any standard for where the garbage cans are placed around our community. They've just been put in one by one. There, if you go along the Alberni Highway between, I counted the CIBC and the Rod and Gun, there's 9 garbage cans there. Actually, I stood last night on the corner by the Rod and Gun. I could see 7 garbage cans in one line of sight. But then you go further downtown and McCarter, McCarter, Weld Street, Corfield, and so on. We don't have any garbage cans. So I thought if we could more evenly distribute them, we could see what kind of spacing we have. And then from there, we can figure out what kind of levels of service we would be able to have from there. It also helps promote a more walkable community and a clean street, and supports our local businesses and tourists in our downtown. I do think this is something that should have been done a while ago so that we could have it in time for summer, but recognizing staff workload and that, if we don't start now, it's going to take years until anything is done with it, because it does take quite a lot of time. So while we're going to look at high-level goals, I think right now this is the smallest step we can take and still make movement in this direction. And it'll also open the conversation for residents to give their feedback instead of them just reading the newspaper after the fact of like, you know, we didn't put a garbage can on Jensen and they go, oh, we should have had one there. Well, this is going to open the door now. We'll have 6 months. Give us your feedback. We've heard some of it as well. So this is the reason for me putting them forward, and I'd like to hear your guys' input.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand the intent of this motion. I don't agree with it. I can't support it. 2 reasons. The fact that staff be directed to review and report back to council within 6 months. This is a huge request. It's big. And the thing is that I have to rely on the fact that where the garbage cans are located now, the staff decided for whatever criteria they had that there was a garbage can necessary. I know it may seem that they're close or kitty corner to each other, but I would pretty well hazard a guess that staff, if the garbage can wasn't filled when the custodians are emptying them, if they weren't filled and needing to be emptied, the custodian is going to make a report back and say, oh, by the way, I can save 1 less trip if you remove this garbage can. So I believe that the garbage cans have been placed there for a reason. Whatever reason that was, that's up to staff to know far more than we do. And so that's why I think that they're placed in such a way. And staff are just so busy that this is something. And then adding more garbage cans, which is what I think would probably be the intent as well, just adds another service level as a cost. And I have to take a step back, and I did read the letters and I did see the different postings on the media. And I'm not sure what the intent of having more garbage cans is for. Is it for the local residents that are walking their dogs and they want a place to put their doggy doo-doo bags that, oh, by the way, the city pays for the doggy doo-doo bags to the tune of $7,000 a year? So the thing is that we already provide free bags. And if the dog owners don't realize that it's their responsibility to have a pet, it's also their responsibility to take the pet's waste back to their own home and dispose of it properly in their own garbage. It's not up to us to have a garbage can on every corner just so that they have a place to put it. It's your responsibility. You have a pet, and that's what it is. Also on the same vein is if it's for the residents in our area, it would make more sense that the resident, whether they're picking up takeout or whether they're picking up food or anything like that, or even a coffee or whatever, and they're taking it and they wish that there's a garbage can, it would make more sense that that person carry the garbage back to their own homes and recycle it like it should be. Because the thing is that when they put it in a municipal garbage can, it's not being recycled, it's going directly to landfill. So it's somewhat irresponsible, and we have a good recycling program. So I really believe that the people should be responsible for their own garbage. National parks have it right now. You bring in your garbage, you take out your garbage. There is no garbage receptacles because they're saying it's not our responsibility, it's yours. So the thing is that I can't support it on that. And I also acknowledge the fact that there are neighborhoods in town. I walk through them all, and whether it's Maple Glen or Gaugin Road or whatever, and all those people walk their dogs at nighttime and all during the day and so forth. And you know what? There's not a single garbage can in their neighborhoods, and they pay a lot of taxes in their neighborhoods, and there's not a single garbage can. They take their garbage back home with them. And I have to say, and they're very clean, the neighborhoods themselves. So the thing is that they're taking personal responsibility for their own garbage and not expecting a city custodian to come and pick up after them. That's just my thoughts.
Any other discussion? Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Fraz.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to say that we are having a workshop on downtown Rebite, and I think that might be an opportunity to discuss placement of garbage cans as part of all of the amenities that we want to see in the downtown core. So I'm not sure that it's really so necessary. I mean, Councillor O'Brien did actually bring up some very valid points, and I'm a bit of a believer that if you pack it in, you pack it out. It's yes, it is nice to, of course, garbage refuse containers for visitors and whatnot, but I still think we can look at this issue when we do the downtown workshop as a start. Thank you.
Councillor Fraz. Okay. Sorry, Councillor Patterson.
It's okay. Thank you both. And your worship, the downtown workshop revitalization, have we set a date for that? In May. And so my follow-up is that's strictly with council and staff? Okay. I'm gonna ask Councillor, oh, maybe it's not. Who's the liaison for the Downtown Business Association? Councillor Chandler, to get some feedback from the PDBA in regards to garbage cans, because that is kind of what we're looking at is downtown core currently. Because I do believe that there's an abundance in some areas and not enough in others. And it really should be a quick little survey with our city staff that pick up that garbage and everything. I think it would be huge. It's even that question. Hey, is there any garbages that you think that don't require changing a whole lot, or that you can miss this day and pick it up the next day, or however the pickup schedule and that is. But I think that there's a step-by-step process that could be worked with and that too. And part of it actually with Councillor Wilson, and by us having a discussion with the downtown revitalization, and Councillor Chandler having a discussion with the PDBA, and having a lot of those different components added to it, that I think would help to relieve some of staff doing it all. Thank you.
We've probably, I'll be right with you, probably spent more time than it would be needed if somebody just went down and talked to the individual that empties the garbage cans, and he probably could tell us exactly which ones to get in and which ones to get out of. But, you know, rather than going through a formal process here, but, you know, that's just my view on it. I think we're making a lot out of this. I do agree that we've got too many in one area and not enough in others, but hell, pick one up and have it moved over a block, and it would be that simple in my mind. And if it doesn't work, then you can move it again. They're not like they're bolted down, or they are bolted. I know, I was being facetious. Councillor Fraz.
Thank you. I hear what everybody's saying about this and agree in large part. Just consider that I think this is the absolute smallest step we can be taking towards this kind of an issue. When I talk about a workshop, if we ask them to bring this forward in a workshop, what this motion is asking for is to give them a 6-month window, not a 1-month window. If we're asking about them going to the PDBA, this motion is letting them know of our intentions. That opens the door for their feedback. Not talking about adding any garbage cans. It's about how many do we have? Does anybody have that answer? That's not a hard thing that you say about asking this staff. What you know, the guy who empties it, that's exactly what it could be. How many is it? Where are they? That's all this is asking for. This is the smallest possible step we can make while still making progress in that direction, rather than being years away and then still not being able to answer how many garbage cans do we have and where are they? And the only other thing it's asked for is where could they be? We're not deciding, we're not asking them to move any garbage cans. We're not telling them to move any garbage cans. But there are things that I know that they have to be placed within so far of a curve so they can be picked up. Well, where are those locations? We don't even know what our options are. We don't even know how many garbage cans we have or where they are right now. So if anyone has suggestions on a smaller step we could take, something that's a little bit smaller to bite off, then I'm happy for that. But I try to make this specific to not put the time crunch on staff. 6-month window, recognizing we're doing a workshop. We may very well cover it in a workshop, but I think the workshop is going to be more high level. It's a revitalization plan. It's going to look at service levels. It's not going to just, you know, picking a small area, asking a simple question.
Okay, we've gone around this one for quite a while now. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Wilson. Okay, thank you. Notice of motion, I'm going to bring one up that this will be on the for the next meeting. The staff be directed to review options for reducing the speed for heavy duty vehicles such as dump trucks on side streets from 50 kilometers an hour to 35 kilometers within the city of Parksville, and provide council with the options at a future date. I'm not even putting a specific date, but it has become a significant issue. We've had police, we've had bylaws officers and everybody else involved in on this. And I've received about 6 or 7 phone calls from neighbors in a particular neighborhood that are concerned about it. So I'm just going to bring it back to the meeting at next week, or the next meeting, if you don't mind. All right. And notice of motion. Okay.
If I may, I'm going to be asking for council's consideration to waive notice of motion to debate a motion tonight. And the motion, I guess, tell them the motion before you vote on it. Or, yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the motion would be that we revert our council meeting times back to 3 p.m.
It's pretty straightforward. Second, well, okay, but that's the notice of motion. Now we have to vote on whether we're prepared to waive the notice. So all those in favor of waiving the notice? Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, now you can bring up your motion.
Okay, so the motion, as I mentioned, would be that we revert our council meetings back to 3 p.m. from the current 6 p.m. time window that we're in.
Seconded by Councillor Greer. Discussion?
I guess I'll just make mention of it. So we just switched over to our 6 p.m. meetings as we previously we went with 3 p.m. in the wintertime, 6 p.m. in the summertime. And there was considerations there about, the light and residents being able to attend the meetings, and considering right now that it's all via Zoom, I think we found that it worked better personally for 3 p.m.s, both for staff and for council, and seemed to be for the residents as well, being able to access the meetings of Zoom. So I thought I proposed that we bring it back to that time.
Just got Councillor O'Brien and Councillor Chandler.
Yeah, well, I remember we had a lot more discussion why we did it in the first place than the 2 ways. And at that point, it was like, quite frankly, it was like people were working during the day. And I think it was not fair. I mean, council members not being able to attend or after during the daytime. I went along with during the winter time because of the light consideration. But the thing is that if this was a hardship for councillors that actually work a 9 to 5-er, I don't think it's fair to impose onto them that they have to be missing out on some hourly wage. So from a strictly council perspective, I guess we can get that input here tonight. But the thing is that me personally, it matters not. But the thing is that out of consideration to other councillors, I think we should consider their feelings.
Thank you. Councillor Chandler and then Councillor Greer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just to comment back, thank you, Councillor O'Brien, for bringing that up. And that was a situation for me last year. This year, not. I work most weekends now, and Monday's my day off. So although it's my day off from my regular job, I would really prefer the 3 o'clock time slot. I think it's a great thing. I think things have changed really with the whole work-related side. Anyways, I would still, even as an employee, I would be working at home right now with the company that I was with at that point. So, I wholeheartedly support this new change, and I think it's great that we can get the job done and still have the evening to spend with either our family or whoever we're able to spend it with. So, thank you.
Councillor Greer, then Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the big reason when we changed it to the summertime initially was for staff. I think it's unfair to ask staff to work all day and then stay here till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I think it's a staff issue, and I think it's much easier for them, I'm sure, unless they tell me otherwise, that it's a better time for them to have a meeting is in the afternoon. So I really support this. If staff agrees with that issue, then I think it's very important that we go along with making sure that they're not working a lot of extra hours. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll kind of say, as I've said many times and everything before, I'm self-employed. And that part of my stipend from City Council has always been basically to pay an employee when I'm not there. And that's just the way it is. So when you run for council, and that you have to take into account that a lot of our meetings aren't just in the forum. I'll have one tomorrow or Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. I'll have another one, or have had at 7:30 in the morning, or there's never always convenient times. But I do 100% respect staff's time. And I know, and those around the table here know that I'm not capable any longer of 14-hour days. And so I would definitely support an afternoon meeting. I know one meeting I was in between eating and such, and went through McDonald's and saw a staff member behind me who had just picked up her daughter. And I was thinking, oh, I remember those days as a parent and everything, but picking up, someone later and that at night disrupts the family life and everything too. And this job is hard sometimes. And that's why I just wanted to, hopefully this motion by Councillor Fast seems to be fairly well accepted by most of council, and I would hope that city staff would appreciate that as well.
Thank you. I'm going to be voting in favor of it as well. And it is primarily for staff. I know I'm now, in about 5 minutes, I'll be on my 12th hour here today, and I know what it's like. So staff does it on a regular basis for all the other things that they do. They work hard for it. They're constantly doing things for us. So I have no qualms about moving this to a more opportune time, such as 3 o'clock. So I'm going to call the question, if that's the case. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll make that effective the next meeting. Yeah. Any new business? Councillor O'Brien, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So I would just like to bring up an issue, and I don't want to create any hard feelings. I just want to have a discussion on some new information I found out. So it was regarding the signs, the stop signs at Despard and Moliet. I was going to actually ask for a reconsideration, like Councillor Greer did previous, to resolution 21-131 regarding installing the four-way stop signs at Despard. And the reason being is that checking information anyways, I found out that we do not have the ability to decide what type of traffic control systems are in place. We're not qualified to do it and so forth. So the thing is that we had a traffic consultant come and make recommendations, which were 4 of them. And then we went outside the box.
Councillor, this is a point of order, if I may. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't ask for reconsideration because you
I realized that I was going to ask a reconsideration to the person that placed it. So, but I was justifying why.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I'll let you go on with your discussion.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm just saying you cannot ask. For
I know because I voted against it. Yeah. I recognize that it has to be in the affirmative. I fully, but I can't ask for reconsideration, and I can't talk out of council. I have to this. Same. So the thing is that for city staff or for city council to say that they favor this particular method of traffic control, like the stop signs at Despard and Moliet, we don't have the qualifications to decide on traffic control systems on city streets. And in fact, it could put the city in a pending litigation issue if there was an accident, that came out of it. And so it could, because it was done by a traffic consultant. The CAO said the RCMP don't recommend it. And the other part of it is the day before we had the meeting, we had a meeting with the school board, and we asked them their opinion on the options as presented by Mr. Doxey, and we didn't get their response. We actually just went ahead the next day and suggested that the stop signs go in.
Okay. Are you calling a point of order? Okay.
Okay, so as a reconsideration request, I'm just asking if Councillor Fraz does not want to entertain that. It could be litigation cost of the city, but that's your choice.
Thank you. All right. Any other new business? All right, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Greer, second by Councillor Chandler. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Bill, it's so nice to have you here. No.